Thank you. Well, good afternoon. It's at that hour. But it's good to be here, and the blessings of all of the prayer requests were blessings. 99%, was it? Blessings. Very good. So what I've been doing this whole month, I've been doing the red letters in the Bible. Of course, the red letters are 99%, I guess, in the four Gospels, where Jesus is talking, and somebody took the thought of making those letters red so that they would stand out for us. So I'm still there with the blessings of having Jesus' words to be said to us. So I just put on here as a title or an outline of the story of Jesus, control over the forces of nature. And it's connected with the last four sermons on the red letters of the Bible, Jesus speaking. So I wanted to be sure and fill you in on some things, anything of interest that I get. I've heard one person say that it's the fresh bread. Whatever I've found as fresh bread, I'm trying to deliver to you. So grab some of these thoughts as we go by. The miracles of Jesus. Of course, he's going to talk quite a bit about why and where in the miracles that Jesus is doing. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to ask this question. And no, I'm going to write it down. So there is 6 lines, all of one sentence, that it talks about the miracles of Jesus. And there's actually 35 miracles recorded in the four Gospels. Oh, wow. 35. So there was 17 bodily cures that were miracles. There was 9 miracles over forces of nature. So you know I'm going to do 3 of them at least. And there's 3 raised people from the dead. Raised people from the dead. I thought there was even more, so I was actually shocked that there was only 3. But that's fine. Jesus was proving to those that were watching that he had the power to be able to do that. Well, he's the creator. Of course he can do it. Then there's a little section on cures for demoniac people that have demons. 6 of those kinds of cures. And there was, what was one of the others? But anyway, there's other miracles that are spoken of, that he did this or he did that, he did that. And some of the things that he did was he used his hand, he touched people. And the Hebrew culture, the one that's going to pray for you, the priest and so on, the Levites, they were not allowed to touch you. Otherwise, they might be unclean for some other ceremony that needed to be done. So they would not touch anybody. And that's why the story of the Good Samaritan, when the Samaritan, one of those folks, the Hebrews hated them because of who they were and their culture, their intermarriage, and so on. They couldn't stand them. But it was that person that helped the one that was laying on the road in trouble. And he touched him. He put ointment on his wounds, and he did this, and he did this, and he did this, and took the guy to a good place and paid for his lodging and his food. And wow. So miracles like that are told in a different story, almost as a parable. But it wasn't. It was real life that Jesus was talking about. And anyway, again, there is 35 named miracles. That's why I just set up a few minutes ago that there was 35 miracles. Those were named and told about, 35. But there's many more that were not told. How do we know that? Look at John chapter 21. John 21, and I'm wanting verse 25. Is the last verse. Okay. I thought I knew exactly where it was on the page, and I know what it says. But here we are, John chapter 21, verse 25. And there are many other things which Jesus did. Should be like miracles. Things. Oh, just let me start again. If I look away, sometimes I can't get back because of my eye problems. Okay, so I'll stay with it here. And there are many other things which Jesus did, the which, if they should be written, every one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that should be written. Amen. Wow. How many things did Jesus do? His daily activities was one blessing, one healing, one miracle, whatever, right after the other. And I got to thinking about it, when he was up on the mountain teaching people, talking, doing those Beatitudes and so on. Yeah. But I wanted to get the point, the Sermon on the Mount, but when he was doing those things and saying those things, and one thing right after that, when he came down off the mountain, he didn't go and sit down, have an afternoon tea or something. But he did lay down, because the story I'm going to tell, he had a pillow. Now, that pillow was not just a 2'6" or something, rather 2'3" by, a foot. No, these were pillows that were huge. So you actually laid your whole body on it. They could be 5 feet, 6 feet, a pillow. 6 foot by 6 foot. You could turn around and lay any way you wanted to. But he had a pillow. Do you think, is the word pillow in the Bible? Yep. I love to find things like that are different so that it gets exciting about looking something up. Anyway, the methods of miracles. Sometimes he would do it by the willpower, you might say. He would will this to happen. And you could tell, okay, this is not this, it's not that. It's his mind control, you might say, of the subject at hand, the problem at hand. His will was the Father's will. So he would do these things and announce them. They call them just a willpower. And he did it by word, sometimes by spoken. Do this, or be thou according to your will. Whatever you asked for, let it be so. His words were being used as the force that gave healing. His touch, I already mentioned, that the Hebrew people wouldn't touch anybody. They'd keep their hands folded, or they wouldn't touch their clothing and anything. Well, Jesus had people that touched his clothing. He didn't mind. When he was in a crowd, they brushed against him. Remember when the lady wanted to touch him? If I could just touch the hem of his garment. And then when he said, "Who touched me?" the apostles were absolutely blown out of the water. What? With a crowd like this, and you're wondering who touched you? Are we back to the Levites and the judges and priests and so on? Don't touch me. Anyway, sometimes Jesus would touch people. A lot of times he either took them by the hand and raised them up, and they were healed on the instant that his hand touched them. So there was times when even lifting people up, touching them, holding them, helping them get up, as well as the physical of his hand on somebody. It's no wonder we have the laying on of hands. That's all over the New Testament, where they laid hands on people and prayed. And healing was either happened or they found God's will by that process of touch. Miracles were for a certain purpose. And I thought we really need to know the purposes. Why were they given? I'll come back to this. So right now I want to go to Matthew chapter 8. Oh, I've got it two ways here. I've got it in good size type as well as on the computer. So if one works, it'll be better than the other. Okay, we'll do it that way. So Jesus had miracles all around him. The angels were doing miracle things. The virgin birth of Jesus through Mary. The star that was there, that's a miracle that pertained to Jesus. The wise men that came, that pertained to Jesus before he would be doing things on his own with miracles. Jesus passed through hostile mobs. That's a miracle. They were going to push him over a bank at one place, right? They could have stomped him or hit him or something rather anywhere along the way. And so that was a miracle. The cleansing of the temple. One man is going to chase everybody else out of the building with ropes tied together. They could have easily stopped him. But that was a miracle from God that they knew he was right and they got out of the way. Cleansing the temple. His transfiguration, a whole different story. Good to read. And who was there? He did miracles that were around soldiers, and soldiers that talked to him, soldiers that fell down, the miracle of the tomb and him coming out of the grave. There was darkness as a miracle at the crucifixion. Darkness. How do you switch the light off? Supposedly, it's a standard that won't go off. When the sun is shining, it's shining. And all of a sudden you have darkness in the middle of the day? I like to think on some of those things because if when the day was lengthened or the day was shortened, this darkness, how did the rest of the earth respond to that happening? Did the people in other parts of the world find a problem with the light and the dark? Was it just local, or was more people involved? More people knew about it. The veil rent in two, from top to bottom, not the other way up. And I guess it was about 10 feet up. To get a hold of it, it wouldn't work very well for most shorter people. But it was torn. That's a miracle. Things about the tomb being opened, and the angels there, and Jesus coming and going, Jesus gone. Miracles, one after another. The earthquake. Wow, a lot of people knew about that one. See, I can go back to some of these things in my mind, and I can say, they heard this, they did this, they saw this, all these things were happening in their real world that they were in. They knew the Messiah was there. One disciple would say to another, the Messiah's here. What's he talking about? He saw it, he heard, he saw the scriptures, he read the scriptures. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to say that. He knew what a Messiah was and what he was going to be doing. That's a miracle. Angels that appeared at his tomb and otherwise are miracles. There are 35 miracles which Jesus wrought, Jesus did, 35. Okay, then down through a list here, they had these bodily cures. And when you start looking up these verses and saying, what did he do there, what did he do there? And I got all 17 of them here, but just a couple that would pop up. Do you remember the man that Jesus healed his hearing with a special way of doing the healing? And his eyes, do you remember when he spit in the dirt and used his saliva? There's another thing he used of his body. He used the saliva and made a mud thing and put it on his eyes and anointed his eyes, and the man could see. He had to go and give his time with the priests and so on to show himself to the priest. But there was a blind man at Bethsaida and also a blind man in Jerusalem. Two different scriptures, two different stories. The lady that was 18 years of infirmity and the doctors couldn't help her, Jesus healed her. The lady with a hemorrhage, and he healed her. The man with dropsies, the 10 lepers, the blind man Bartimaeus, I'm saying it wrong. but Bartimaeus, something like that. Can't quite get that one. There's a song like that, so I'm trying to think of the word from the song instead of seeing it in the scripture. Blind man that called out and wouldn't let Jesus get by without having Jesus hear him. And the ear of Malchus healed his ear. Oh, interesting. You know, when a miracle happens to us, do we notice it? I hope so. Because here Peter took his knife and he cut his ear off, it says. Jesus took that and put it back on where it belongs and healed it instantly right there. Wow. Well, it was a way of, if you want to fight here, let me hurt you first and then we'll have a fight. I think that's what it was, because one man with one knife against all of those that are standing there with swords and spears and ways of cutting grain or whatever. They all were standing there with weapons of some variety, and Peter was going to give his life for Jesus. And Jesus said, don't do this. Now I got to heal him. Why was Peter wrong? Jesus needed Peter to carry on the church day after day, and the next days especially. Okay, so these are all miracles that are written in the book, rather than the ones that were not written down, not explained. The forces over nature, the water to wine, the drought of fishes, and they pull up the net, and there's all these fish in there. And that was at least twice that happened. Drought of fish. The tempest that was stirred. Amazing story. I want to get back to that in a little bit. 5,000 that got fed. How many people in this small community, might say, knew about Jesus and what he could do? At least 5,000, and another 4,000 later, wasn't it? There's lots of people that knew that Jesus was there and that he was the Messiah, the only one that could do such things. Jesus walked on the water. Well, maybe there wasn't very many people watching at that time, but it was done. Probably some people that were actually steering and powering the boat, and so there's more than one or two. A miracle was seen. That second time the 4,000 were fed was here, and the tax money. Remember, Jesus said, well, they were trying to accuse him that he wasn't supporting the government and that he wasn't helping with or obeying the rule of the Roman government. And he said, what do you do with the taxes? Well, Peter, you go over and get that fish, and there will be a coin in his mouth. You pay taxes for yourself and for me. Wow. And I've run into people, well-meaning churchgoers, that won't pay tax. Baloney. Did Jesus stand up against the government of Rome and make a fuss? No. That wasn't his way. There's no point in that. The job that needed to be done was saving souls. Let's get on with our job. Let the government do their job, We have to answer to God for our lack of work and lack of duty to winning souls, teaching people, and they're going to stand before judgment too. So leave that job to them. Then there was a person with a demon that was in the synagogue in Capernaum. There's a blind and dumb man that had a demon as well, and that's in Matthew and Luke. There was another one with a demon, another one that was dumb, demon. The Phoenician lady, daughter, that needed to be saved from her troubles. And then the epileptic boy in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. 6 stories there. And the raising of the dead, at least 3. Jared's daughter, the widow's son, and Lazarus, where Jesus did these miracles. They're named miracles, and there's a lot more that were not given as to what it was. They that believed on his name, They believed because of the signs that were being done. They could see with their eyes, see the miracles happening in front of their face. And all the healing of the diseases was what Jesus was all about. Jesus went about healing all manner of diseases. That's in Matthew 4:23. And also in chapter 9:35. And remember when they brought people to him by the hordes, some were sick, taken with divers diseases and torments, possessed demons and epileptic things and palsy and other people that needed healing. Jesus took care of them all. All that had any sick brought them to him, and he laid hands on them, every one of them, and healed them. In my mind, I'm clicking from step to step to step. They brought anybody they wanted to, and he healed them all. And then he touched them, every one of them. That's quite a job. You're going to walk by and have Jesus seated, or did Jesus walk and they couldn't move that one anyway because he was sick? And so they touched this and he touched that. He was there with the people, feeling their pain and their agony and problems and their health issues. There was the miracle of the lame, the blind, the deaf, the maimed, and many others, and they cast them down. The scripture, no, they didn't just throw them down, but they brought them and put them in front of Jesus in a hurry, because you want to make sure that your person that you're interested in is where Jesus can get to him. That's what I see of the casting down. Hurry up, get him up there so that Jesus won't miss him. Cast them down at his feet, and he healed them, insomuch that the multitude wondered when they saw the dumb speaking, and the maimed whole, the lame walking, and the blind seeing. That's in Matthew 15, verse 30 and 31. Whosoever he entereth into a village or city in the country, they were doing miracles, healing the sick in the marketplaces. Yeah. Flip this over. They wanted to touch his garment. I mentioned that already. And he touched people, made them whole. And that's in Mark 6, 53. And the next verses. He came to the border of Judea, and there followed, and he healed them. There was multitudes followed him. Matthew 19, multitudes followed him, and he healed them. Great multitude, but he took care of them. All the city was gathered at the door. That was when they had to break open the roof, I guess. They couldn't get in any other way, and they were determined to get this sick man to Jesus. And he possessed demons, and he healed them. Amazing. That's in Mark 1, 31, 32, 33, 34. And I love that verse. I've already read to you, but I got it here again. This many other things Jesus did, the which, if they should be written, every one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books, the writings of things that Jesus did, and all the types of things he did. So I want to go to those, I got them in the Bible, and I've got them on here as well. I'll take the Bible if I can do that one. I'll check. But Matthew chapter 8, if you grab your Bible, 3 little sections of what Jesus did. Matthew chapter 8, and I'm going to start at verse 23 through 27. So 23, Matthew chapter 8 and 23. And when he was entered into a ship, his disciples followed him. So he knew where he was going or what he needed, and he had just been doing things. Follow me and I will let the dead bury the dead is in the verse just above. man wanted to go with Jesus, and he said, foxes have holes, birds have nests. The Son of Man is not a place to lay his head. But if you want to follow me, come on. That kind of thing. There's other places where Jesus told the people plainly, no, you cannot be my disciple. That's 3 times. And some people want to say, no, that Jesus would have never done that Jesus took anybody. Anybody can come as you are, come and... No, there's times when Jesus said, you need to do something rather than first this. And this man, he told him, what about all of this? And then when the guy challenged it a little bit, Jesus said unto him, follow me and let the dead bury their dead. This is not a bad thing. It's just the people that are dead are not saved. So don't do everything that you have to do over there. It's more important to be with Jesus. He's going to be gone before too long. And what have you done? What have you gained by passing by Jesus? I think this is a valid statement. It's not a disgusting thing that they're dead anyway. Why don't you just... These are people that don't care, don't want to care. They don't love Jesus, don't want Jesus. Let them do their own thing. Let them bury those people. Let them be busy with that job. So then Jesus entered into the ship, and his disciples followed him. Verse 24, and behold, there arose a tempest, a great tempest in the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with waves. And boy, I can tell you, I've been there. When you're out in that water and it's wild and tearing around and whipping you around, and where was Jesus? But he was asleep. That's the last 3 words, or 4 words. Right there. Jesus was asleep. We need to know more about this action and why this was happening this way. Jesus was tired. He needed to take a break. He needed to sleep. Was he worried about whether God could save him? No, he was doing God's will. God would not take him out of there. God isn't going to have a thing happen to him. He's got to meet the cross. Jesus has to die for sin. So Jesus wasn't afraid. And his disciples came to him and woke him. So he's definitely asleep. If he slept through that, I'd be on the bulwarks along the outside edge, and I'd be talking on the telephone. Hello, Ralph. I get sick I got seasick tied to the wharf one time. The water was pretty wild. I got seasick tied to the wharf. Boy, oh boy. Anyway, they woke him up. And they said to Jesus, Lord, save us, we perish. And just imagine the agony, the fright. The water is coming over the top of the boat. And if it was an open at all, the water is going into the bottom of the boat. And you're going to get heavier and heavier until you can't rock, you can't dip it out, you can't do nothing. The boat's going to sink. And that's very true. Very, very scary. And his disciples came and woke him up. Verse 26, and he saith unto them, why are ye fearful? Well, Lord, that's pretty natural when you figure the next moment we're going to drown. I can't swim very well or at all. And lifeboats and life preservers and things weren't common in their day neither. So why are you fearful? O ye of little faith. Oh, that one hurts. We are supposed to have the faith that we've got the Messiah on the boat with us. How can it sink? Are we all going to die when we're supposed to be the ones that carry the message after Jesus? No, we're not going to die. God's got a job for us to do. Jesus is there explaining what that job is. Then he arose. He hadn't gotten up yet. He wasn't that excited. And rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. Boy, I can just imagine. You go from these horrible waves rolling and tearing and tipping and throwing you, and your boat is going everywhere, to calm. My, oh my, that would have been a shocker. That'd be an eye-opener. Yep, I believe in Jesus. That's what's going to happen. So there's great calm. But the men marveled, saying, what manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? It's almost like a dog, you say, all right, lay down. And the dog lays down. You tell him, okay, run, and he runs. Is the water going to do that for Jesus? What kind of a man is this? The waves, the storm, wow. And they obeyed him. So it's no wonder they said, wow, what kind of a man is this? He's the Messiah. He's the creator of the winds and the sea and the waves. And he's the creator. So let's go to Mark. Same story. Just a little different. I want you to catch the difference and the reason why you read the second story. Okay, Mark chapter 4. And I need to go to verse 35. Verse 35 is right there. And when they had sent away the multitude, they took him through, my eyes again, just a second. And when they had sent away the multitude, they took him even as he was in the ship. How was Jesus? Did he need to have some help? Was he tired? Could hardly walk down the hill from where he had been preaching? Was he tired? And there were also with him other little ships. More people that are going to hear the story, going to see the storm, going to see the calm. More witnesses. Wow, okay. Okay. Down to 37. And there arose a great storm of wind. This lake, one place it says came down on them, but there's this lake is like dead flat, and you got these hills on the sides, but mainly to the, if you get directions right, I guess it would be northwest. There's hills that go up. The other side is flatter. There's desert over there. And I read about how flat this lake was and how shallow it was, mostly along the edge. It was quite shallow. And boy, that could really build up with wind. Going across that lake and then rolling that water. Oh boy, that would have been something else. And there arose a great storm of wind. And the waves beat into the ship so that it was now full. The other one said about washing over it and going across it and so on. There's two definite things when you have your boat full and it's heavy in the water. And it can't bob around, it can't tip, you can't bail it out. You're just going to go down. That's all there's to it. That's when you holler, Mayday, 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 which means I'm in grave and imminent danger. We're either burning up or we're sinking. That's the time. This is it right here. And the water fills the boat. Verse 38. And he was in the hinder part of the ship. Sometimes there's some bobbing. Sometimes he used to build up the back of the boat so that you could see over and control by telling people, go do this, do that. And, you could see from the back. Maybe he was back there on the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow. It was soft for him, he could bounce with the waves, and wow. So he had a pillow. But I'll bet you it's one of those big ones. It's about 6 feet by 6 feet. So you really can get to sleep on it. And they awaked him and said unto him, Master, carest thou not that we perish? That's in one of the songs, right? Don't you care? Why aren't you getting up? Why don't you notice this? How come the storm is not waking you up? He was so completely worn out that he was able to sleep. But also he was in such a calm situation in his life that it didn't keep him awake. He was able to sleep. And he arose and rebuked the wind and said unto the sea, Peace, be still. And that's in one of those songs as well. Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. Wow. If all of this happens and there's now a calmness to the whole thing. And he said unto them, why are ye so fearful? It's hard to be human. How is it that ye have no faith? Oh, again, that hurts. I want to have faith. I want to be faithful. And Jesus has to say that to us. And they feared exceedingly and said one to another, what manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? Amazing. Lots of people heard the story. It was repeated, and they saw. All these things were verifiable, you might say, that it was real. So I'm going to go to Luke chapter 8. It's my last verse. The sea meant a lot to me when I was there and had that job in marine electronics. A lot of times when you knew that you could very easily lose your life. Luke chapter 8, and I need to get back to verse 22. Okay, Luke chapter 8 and verse 22. And just a couple of verses here. Now it came to pass on a certain day that he went into a ship. The story doesn't have the same thing as the other, but it is the same one. You can check it out. And he went into the ship with his disciples. So he went first, you might say, and the disciples came. Let us go over unto the other side of the lake. He needed to get away from these people. This lake is about, I'm forgetting, 15 miles across, so it's about 8 miles halfway, that kind of thing, 7 miles halfway. And let's go over the lake, but where to? And by reading this and looking at the map, you can tell what city they were heading for. But as they sailed, so they had power, they were moving, he fell asleep. Now that's really comforting, and knowing that Jesus needed sleep and he was able to fall asleep and catch up with strength so that he could carry on. And there came down, off of that high land and came down, there came down a storm of wind on the lake. So it came down off of that hill and onto the lake, making a real problem. And they were filled with water. So again, the ship was filled with water. So much roughness that it was getting into the boat. And they were in jeopardy, not just in trouble, they were in jeopardy. This is when you holler, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. So that the people know that it's grave and imminent danger. You're either burning up or sinking. Okay, and then verse 24. And they came to him and woke him, saying, Master, we perish. Then he arose and rebuked the wind and the raging of the water. This is not just a bunch of waves. This was a raging water. And they ceased, and there was a calm. Man, if you were there and as all of a sudden it was back to flat water. Wow. Would you remember that? It's a miracle. Could you tell your grandchildren? Can you tell your next generation? Verse 25. And he said unto them, where is your faith? It's a little different wording, but wow, it cuts to the core, doesn't it? You knew I was here. What's the problem? And they, being afraid, wondered, saying one to another, what manner of man is this? For he commandeth even the winds and the water, and they obey him. Fantastic. Wouldn't it have been wonderful to be with one of these miracles? And all these people would know, and I bet when they got to the shore, they told the story. Or the people on the shore maybe knew of this wind that had come down, and all of a sudden, whoosh, it's all gone. All disappeared. This story was told again and again, so it got into the Bible 3 times at least for us to take note of God's power and Christ working at God's will. Christ was the Messiah. He needed to die on the cross and not die on the water. He needed to die on the cross. Miracles after miracles after miracles. I bet I'd like to know, I bet you'd like to know what the other 35 are. and probably know a little bit more about the ones that weren't told, but just says. Amazing. So I hope I've inspired you to read the red letters, but also to read the miracles of Jesus. May God bless you.